All right, everyone. So today we're going to talk about how to pin and cut your Shibori fabric so that way we can make it into our wall hanging. I have my piece of Shibori right here in front of me. I put down a little bit of black paper underneath of it just so that you could see things a little bit better. I also have a pencil and a pair of just regular school scissors. Over here, you guys are not going to have the actual pin cushion, but I just put this here so you can see a little bit more easily. I have some pins in my cushion and a needle. The pins, this is really important. I'll hold this up a little bit closer so you can see. The pins have these little ball things on the end of them so that way you can see them a little bit more easily. They're a little bit pointy, but really not anything crazy, so just be gentle with them. And then we'll talk about the needles here shortly. So we're going to unfold our Shibori. Everybody's going to look a little bit different. I like that mine does kind of like a fade over to like from dark to light. And if you have any of these little strings just hanging off, you can just pull them off. That's naturally going to happen. Don't worry about those. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to cut our Shibori so that it comes down to a little bit of a point so it looks more like a hanging flag. But we want this to be symmetrical, meaning we want it to be the same on both sides. So to do that, I'm going to fold this in half hot dog style, so long ways. And this is something where if you would like to, you can use your pencil. You're going to be going from this corner down here, and then you can kind of decide how much you want your angle to be. I'm going to use my pencil and just draw a little bit of a light line. You probably can't even see that it's so light. I don't want to do a super dark line on here because I don't want it to show up on my fabric, but I'm just going to be cutting a diagonal from here to here, and you can decide if you want yours to be more dramatic or how you'd like it to look. Notice though that I am cutting on the closed side of my fabric, and in fact now that I'm looking at this I'm realizing I didn't fold it very evenly. I should have matched those edges up a little bit more. There we go. So this side over here is the open side. That's the side that has my two open pieces. This side over here is closed. You'll see that this is my closed side, kind of just like if you were going to be cutting out a heart for Valentine's Day. So now that I have my little diagonal line from this corner over to this one, I'm going to cut it. And my best advice to you for cutting is, number one, I like to hold my fabric like kind of like a claw. So what I'm doing is I have this part of my hand on top, my thumb and my fingers, and underneath of it I have my other fingers, and they're sort of pulling. They're just kind of creating tension on the fabric so that way when I cut, it's a little bit tight. My other piece of advice to you is when you're cutting, get all the way back here in the back of the scissors. That's where they're the sharpest. So if you're noticing they're not cutting, try those two tricks first. So I'm just going to start over here, give it a little bit of a snip. You'll notice that one thing I'm doing is now that I've got it and it starts to start cutting, I'm holding on to these two little ends that I've cut. I'm holding on to these two little ends that I've cut as I'm cutting, and I'm pulling back on them so that way there's some tension on the scissors, which makes it a little bit easier for them to cut. Cool. So now I have these two pieces of fabric, and you can just put those to the side. You don't need them for anything right now. And then when I open it up, I have my little point that comes down like this. And you'll notice that it's not perfectly a straight line, and that's okay because we are going to be folding it later anyway. So if you want to go in, if you need to kind of clean up any edges or make any kind of revisions, you can totally do that. Cool. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and start pinning, and you want to kind of decide which one do you want to be the front and which one do you want to be the back. So you might want to sort of flip it around a couple times, see which one you like better. I think I like this side to be the front of my Shibori. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over so I'm looking at the back of it, because we're going to be pinning to the back of it. And what we're going to be doing is called hemming, meaning that we're going to be folding these raw edges or these loose edges over. So that way when we sew it, it has a nice, clean, solid edge there. If you're wearing a t-shirt or something, you could flip up the bottom of your shirt and you'll see that your shirt is actually hemmed on the inside, like folded over and sewn. So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and pin that. So you just want to do this one side at a time. And I'm not worrying about this top side right here because that's what I'm going to be hanging my stick through. I'm just going to be worrying about these bottom sides. And in fact, I am going to make sure that everybody has their stick with them because this is an important size that you need to measure. Because right now, if I put my stick in here, no, the ends wouldn't poke out the sides and I wouldn't have anything to connect my yarn to. So what's going to happen is we're going to be folding these edges in, and you want them to fold in to the point that your stick will stick out the sides like this. See what I mean? So just a little bit of a size gauge there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just turn this so that way I can get it a little bit closer to me. You only need to fold over maybe like a ½ inch. You really don't need to fold it over a lot. It shouldn't be looking like this. Just a little bit is all you need to do. And then let's talk about inserting the pins. I'm going to hold this up so you can see it a little bit more clearly. So when you insert the pins, right, the whole goal of these is just to secure what you're sewing so it stays in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke my pin in, and you'll see how it pokes out the other side of my fabric. Then I'm going to poke it out the other side of my fabric, and you'll see now, if I hold it up, you can see now it's just laying nice and flat. It's not in my way, it's not sticking out anywhere. And I'm going to do that again going down this way. So I did one at this corner, I'm going to do one at this corner, poke it in, poke it out. Cool. So now I've got 2 pins here. This one is secured. I'm going to flip on over to the other side. Do the exact same thing. Fold it over just a little bit. Make sure that it fits on my stick. That looks good. Poke it in. Whoop. Poke it out the other side. Let it lay nice and flat. And you'll notice that I'm pinning it really pretty close to that raw edge of my fabric, because I'm going to be sewing right past it, and I want to make sure that I have enough room to sew past it. Let's stick another one down here in this end. So that one looks good. Now we want to talk about this point down here, because this one we're going to be folding the same but a little bit differently. So I'm going to fold this edge up a little bit, and you'll notice that it's going to sort of fold over these corners, and that's okay because we're going to sew right past them. So I'll stick my pin in here, push it out the other side, lay it flat. I'll do the same thing down here in this corner. All right, and then I have just one more side to fold. I'm just going to do this one right here. I'll do the exact same thing. Fold it up. And again, it's going to be folded over in certain places, and that's okay. We're going to sew right past it. And stick this pin in right here. Lay it nice and flat. And it looks like I'm 1 pin short. I'm going to pin this one right here. All right, so now let me flip this over and take a look at the front of it, see how the shape looks, see if I like everything that looks like on there. So you'll see now you have these nice clean edges. You don't have the raw thread hanging off like you do up here at the top. Don't worry about the top yet. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But right now this looks just about ready to get started on sewing.